morning, YouTube family. I am on my way to my Chick Time event. Today we're gonna do game day with the children and the moms, of course. I think we're gonna do like bingo and Pictionary, and then something about like wrap the kid in toilet paper. So I think like we're literally physically gonna wrap the children in toilet paper. I think like the fastest, whoever can like wrap the kid the fastest wins or something like that. I don't know. And then we're gonna go outside and just play chalk and other things like that. So let's go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Go!
Faster, faster!
Okay, all right. Take the rolls around. Walk around. All right, now walk around. There you go. Walk around. Like this. Like that. All right. All right. Seriously, don't break it, baby. Don't be sure. All right.
No. She's so cute.
Okay, I'll hold it for you. Okay. You got it? Go! Triple layered in. You got it, Brooklyn?
Stack with the girls? Yeah? Okay, right over here. Look, these are cups for your team.
Set, go!
Okay, y'all ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you guys.
Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! So I just left the shelter right now. Camera's kind of close to me because I'm trying to adjust my arm to be able to drive and vlog at the same time. And I know, Mom, you're probably really mad at me for doing this. I promise I have my hand on the wheel and I'm looking at the road. I'm not looking at the camera. The kids had a blast and the moms had fun too, just watching the kids act silly. And I got to have a really intimate conversation with one of the ladies who lived in the shelter. Definitely got emotional, and we sat together and we prayed together and we talked, and I gave her my email address so that we can chit chat back and forth. I think a lot of times these women who are in this situation, who are in abusive relationships, usually it starts from a very young age. I feel like because of that, that makes them just feel like they're not worthy of what is good and what is right. There, that's a little bit better now. You're just gonna have to see the steering wheel unless I can drop this down a little bit. So I don't have to sit here and hold the camera the whole time. Darn, that's as far as it goes. There. Okay, a little bit better. Anyways, I'm gonna go back to what I was trying to say. A lot of these women feel like they're stuck and they're trapped in this situation. The good thing is that now there are opportunities to get out and there's ways, and that's like the shelter I volunteer at. That's what we do. That's what they, not what we do, but that's what they do, is they help them get out of that situation and to better themselves. They give them counseling, they help them build up their confidence again and to understand that they're worthy, so that they are more willing to get back out there and start a new and better life. And that's what they do. So they build these opportunities for them, and they start them off from the bottom and they work their way up to where they one day just move out of the shelter and they go into their own home. And they help them find a job, and they help them build their self-esteem, of course. They help them get into an apartment and just teach them how to be better mothers, better people in general. I just hope that any of you who are watching my videos are not victims of abuse. But a lot of times we know someone who is, whether it be a family member or a friend, or just someone maybe at work. We know someone who maybe or has been in that situation before, and the number one thing to always remember, or even to, if it's not you, then something you want to tell the person who is going through that, is that it's not their fault. That's the first thing. And I think sometimes the woman feels like it is their fault. You know, they say, well, I drink too much, or I have I don't know, I'm ugly to my husband, I don't clean up enough, I'm fat, or I'm lazy, I don't have a job, or even if you had an affair, or I did this or I did that to my husband, I wrecked the car, or I got us in debt. You know, they kind of blame themselves for why they're being abused, and it's not your fault. I don't care how bad the situation is. I don't care what you think what you did deserves a man hurting you. Nothing you can do should ever be a reason for you to get abused. And that's something that I think women have to remember, is that there is never an okay reason for a man to hurt you. There's not. And so you need to remember that. And if you, the person who's watching this, know someone who is in an abusive relationship, you need to remind them it is not their fault. They're not the reason for being abused. It's not them. They shouldn't say, well, you know, it's just something that I have been going through all my life. You know, my dad abused me, or my grandpa abused me, or my uncle abused me, or, you know, that's just my lifestyle. My mom was abused, or my sisters were abused. It should never be a pattern. And that's the sad thing, is that it's always a pattern. You know, the mom is abused, and then the children are abused, and then the kids as they grow up are abused, and then their children and their children. And when is it going to stop? When is that pattern going to end? You need to end that pattern. You need to say enough is enough. Get yourself and your children out of that situation, because that is not a life that you want your children to see. Even if your children aren't getting abused, you don't want to have your kids witness their own mother being hurt that way. You're better off homeless than having to let your kids see that. Because there are so many shelters. You just have to have the willpower to just suck up your pride and just go. Get the help that you need and get yourself back on your feet. That's just most important. Another thing is to remember you're not alone. I know a lot of these women who are in the shelter are like, well, you know, I was alone, and I just felt like I had nobody, and I have no family or no friends. He kept me away from everybody. A lot of these women think that they're alone in this, and they're not. There are women all over the world who are getting abused every day, every hour, every minute. There's someone getting abused. You're not alone. There is help out there. And actually, I just looked up a phone number that you can call if you ever feel like you're in a situation where you need help. Of course, the number one number would be to call 911. Get the report out there that he's abusing you. Don't be afraid to press charges towards this man. I don't care if he's the husband. I don't care if he's the father of your children. It's never okay, and you need to report it. So remember, call 911 if you feel like you're in that situation. And there's also a 24-hour national domestic violence hotline, and I'm going to give you guys that phone number, and you can also share it with somebody if you know someone who is in an abusive relationship. The number is 1-800-799-SAFE, and that's nationwide here in the United States. If you ever feel like you need to call that number, don't ever be afraid to. If you feel like you just need someone to talk to and you just need, you know, advice, call that number. Don't be afraid. Don't let your pride get in the way and you're like, oh, I don't want to call that number. Call the number. A lot of times women think, oh, well, you know, he can change. I can change him. You can't change an abuser. You can't change the patterns. An abuser is always going to be an abuser in my eyes. And a man who is willing to hit a woman is a wuss, and he's weak, and he's just not a man. And I don't see how a man like that could ever change. A lot of times these abusers will try to make promises and to apologize to you and make you feel like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never do this again. It was just one time, you know, the drinking, or it was the drugs, or I just lost control, or you made me really upset. I'll never do this again. It's just a way of manipulating you. And that's sad that a lot of times women believe it, and they're like, okay, well, he just had a bad day at work today. He won't do this again, and it'll happen again and again and again. And I hear a lot of these stories where he'll apologize and he'll tell her he's so sorry, and it'll still happen again. You deserve so much better. You deserve someone who's going to treat you with respect, someone who's going to love you for you, who's going to put aside all your faults, all of the things that you might have done in your past that weren't okay, someone who's going to love you for you and the better person that you will become after getting out of that relationship. You just need to get the help and get out of that you're in now. Leave that behind, because it's not okay.